Hello and welcome into another episode of Reality Check here on Talkin Jets on a Thursday afternoon after the schedule release. What's going on? Matt O'Leary with Jeremy, aka Jets Chaos. What's going on, my friend? How are you?
What's going on? I'm just bouncing around. I'm getting used to what the Jets are going to have to do the first 7 weeks of the season.
they're hopping around. They are bebopping all over. It seems like they're going out relatively. Correct me if I'm wrong, but San Fran's not too far from where you are in Sacramento, right?
Not at all. I'm definitely looking into whether or not I'm going to be able to go to that game. I have two different options. Nick Shine is working on tickets through a sister has a connection with the Niners, and we might even get into a suite.
Oh gosh!
And then he and his brother are going to come to he and his son are going to come to Sacramento and stay with me, and then we'll drive. If that doesn't work out and Nick doesn't come, there's a guy, he's very good friends with Green Bean. He's in the discourse. I don't know if you know him. His name is Wyatt. He's a Marine.
Okay, yes.
He's based out in California. So he is planning to go alone and was asking me. So if Nick doesn't come, I'll definitely go and meet Wyatt and maybe do it that way and see the game with him.
Okay, there you go. That's perfect. And as you mentioned, it's not too far, but the Jets are going to be bouncing around to start this season. So what we'll do, we'll pull up the schedule first, go through each game, and then I kind of want to talk about some misconceptions about the schedule with you, because I think some people are getting a little too worked up about this New York Jets 2024 schedule. So let's do this so that we can see the full thing. Okay. So week 1 on the road, Monday Night Football. Week 2 on the road, back-to-back road games against Tennessee before coming home for the opener September 19th, Thursday Night Football against the Pats. Denver at home in week 4. On the road in London, week 5. No bye week in week 6. Instead, they're home on Monday Night Football in week 6 against Buffalo. Then Sunday night, so 3 standalone games in a row, against the Pittsburgh Steelers. On the road the following week against the New England Patriots. Short week, Thursday Night Football game in week 9 against Houston. Then you get Arizona on the road in week 10, followed by another Sunday night game in week 11, which is the Indianapolis Colts. Go into the bye in week 12. Week 13, come out of the bye and you play Seattle before going on the road to Miami and Jacksonville. Knock out the Florida games back-to-back. Home against the Rams, on the road against the Bills, and then at home to close out the season against Miami. To me, the first thing that jumped out when I heard about this schedule was the number of primetime games. That was really surprising, and how they're all early in the first 11 games of the year.
Yeah, when I was first looking at that schedule, which I was looking at very early, as it turns out. Thank you very much, Matt. For sharing with us the schedule before everyone else got to see it.
Yeah,
I almost didn't believe it was real, and I thought your sources were wrong, because I couldn't believe how and I'm like you, I like the Sunday 1 o'clock.
Oh, sure.
Especially doing the reaction thing with Green Bean. It's just easier to have a structure every week. It was disturbing. I was like, man, this is going to be so weird. It's like we're never just going to have a normal football Sunday where we're one of the games. It was kind of shocking. It's kind of shocking that that's the way the schedule is laid out. But there are some real positives to it.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And that I understood why people were apprehensive when I tweeted it out. I made it, I think, at least anyway, I made it pretty clear I would never claim to have fake sources, or I wouldn't tweet it out if I didn't believe it. But when I did get the message originally on the schedule, that was one of the things that I said was I'm really surprised with the number of primetime games. Technically 7 standalone games if you want to count the London game, because it's 9:30. Nobody else is playing at that time. We're going to get a lot of New York Jets with that being the only game on, and everybody in America watching along with them. And apparently, did you see the quote today from the VP? What is his title? I want to get it right. The NFL VP broadcast planning guy, Mike North. Did you see that?
No.
Okay. So I'll pull that up and we'll get back to the schedule because it's exactly what we're talking about right now. It's very bizarre. So again, this is Mike North, NFL VP of Broadcast Planning on the Jets 6 primetime games in 11 games to start the season. Quote, "We feel like the Jets kind of owe us one. For that guy, Aaron Rodgers, to last 4 plays was disheartening for many of us." What kind of quote is that from the NFL VP of Broadcasting?
Yeah.
How do you think we felt as Jet fans? We had to watch all 17 games. They're crying because they saw 6 in prime time.
It's unbelievable. That's unbelievable. I feel like we get so picked on. Like we're always put in a position where no one will just leave us alone.
Right. We're getting shots getting thrown at us from the NFL VP of Broadcast. I never heard of this guy until today, but now we're under fire from Mike North.
We owe them one because a player got hurt. I just don't understand. I don't understand it. We don't owe them a thing. And I thought their job, it wasn't about owing. I thought it was about trying to find the best matchup. So if they're so disappointed in our performance in these primetime games, which they have every right to be, why are you gambling every year on us? Like, let us go out and prove it for a year. They're the ones that are rolling the dice and saying, "Oh, I think they're going to be good this year." I'm glad you think we're going to be good. I'm glad you're going to think that people are going to want to see us. But, at the same time, don't complain about it if somebody gets hurt and it doesn't happen. That's you gambled wrong. That's not on us.
No, it's nobody else's fault. It's nobody else's fault but their own for that. They put him in the spot. It happens. Were they complaining when Joe Burrow went down in Cincinnati? No, it's just you got to pick on the Jets. That's it.
Always.
It's frustrating. It really is. But looking at this schedule with all the early stuff in prime time, are you confident? Does it worry you with that many primetime games to start? Like, I guess we'll look at it in 2 halves, up until the bye week and then the post bye week after.
I worry more about things like playing 3 games in the course of 10 days.
Blitzcrew said that. He's the first one in here. He goes 3 games. He meant 10 days, but he says 3 games in 10 days. Ouch.
Yeah, that's the thing that bothers me. The thing, the fact that we're going to be on our 10th day playing New England, it's like, can we find any way? Can they work any harder to find a way to put us at a disadvantage and try to prevent us from just getting to roll over New England? Like if there was any way to make that game a worrisome game, they magically found a way.
Exactly. Right. Getting there. It's like, oh, you got him on a short week. This is exactly like in 2018, Sam Darnold's rookie year. They opened the season on Monday Night Football against Detroit. They play their home opener in week 2 against Miami. And then it was Thursday night on the road in Cleveland. That was Baker Mayfield's debut. And it was the same thing. 3 games in 10 days. They went 1-2. Hopefully the Jets do a hell of a lot better than 1-2 in their first 3 games this year.
Yeah, I think they will. I mean, I know the first game has everybody worried, but 2 years ago, we lost the opener to Baltimore. And before everything fell apart with injuries, what was our record? 7-3 at one point?
It was 7-4. I want to say 7-4.
So that team that wasn't anything close to this team. I mean, starting a quarterback, you saw, like we can't overreact, to game 1. If we lose it, specific, especially if we play a super awesome game and it comes down to the wire. If we get blown out, that's a different story.
Sure.
But if we go down to the wire with a team that was just in the Super Bowl and didn't lose in the Super Bowl convincingly, I mean, it went to overtime, the game, right? So you're talking about a team with, one little flick of luck may have been the Super Bowl champion. If we go into their stadium on Monday Night Football and we bring that game into the final drives of the fourth quarter, win or lose, we've done our job as far as make a statement to the league. And I wouldn't panic about the 1 loss. It just happens to be we had probably the toughest game on our schedule that coincidentally happened to be week 1.
That's what I was going to say. And that was one of the misconceptions that I thought we can get into in this first segment here, which is, yes, they get the toughest part or their toughest opponent. I think everyone will agree is San Francisco, and they get that out of the way. But I think you could spin this into it being a positive thing for two reasons. Number one, you're going to have the most time by far to prepare for that game in San Francisco. You're also more than likely going to be, each team will be at their healthiest, right, in week one, because they're not going to be banged up from playing games. And then the third thing, San Francisco usually tends to start slow. Last year was the exception. They went 5-0. Then they got cold in the middle of the season before getting hot at the end of the year and going out strong. The 2 years prior, they started, I think it was 3-4 before winning 10 games in a row. And then in 2021, they were like 1-2 or something like that. But moral of the story, it usually takes San Fran about halfway through the season before they really start to hit their stride. So if you are going to beat them, it feels like your best chance is earlier in the season.
Yeah, and there's a similar philosophy too with another opponent that works for us, just like you what you just said. Plus, with Miami has been starting the seasons really strong and then becoming the choking Dolphins, stumbling into the playoffs and losing in the past couple of years. So a nice advantage is we don't have to at least play the Dolphins, at their strongest point for them typically in the last couple of years, which is the first 4 or 5 games.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that. So that was my first thing that stood out to me schedule wise. That was a misconception that it's going to be a hard schedule, or that, they're somehow at a disadvantage with going against them early. But I did have something else from that first half of the schedule before getting to the bye that I think is worthwhile to point out and talk about here. So for looking at the week 3, 4, and 5 games, it's the New England Patriots, then the Denver Broncos, and then the Minnesota Vikings. So there's a chance that you're getting 3 rookie quarterbacks in a row, if that's the route that they go, with Drake May, Bo Nix, and JJ McCarthy. Now there's a chance that maybe, Jacoby Brissett ends up starting, or that they go with Zach Wilson or Jared Stidham, or that they go with, Sam Darnold in Minnesota, however it shakes out. But I came prepared, Jeremy. I have some numbers about rookie quarterbacks in the first 5 games of a season. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Okay. So over the last decade, so pretty good sample size, rookie quarterbacks are 36 and 76, a win percentage of 0.325 in weeks 1 to 5.
Wow.
So they only win at a 32% or 33% clip. They are 40 games under 500 in the first 5 weeks of the year. So if the Jets are going up against May and JJ McCarthy and Bo Nix, I think that really bodes well for them in that stretch.
Yeah, I mean, bring on Bo Nix. But seriously, even if Bo Nix proves me wrong, because I don't think Bo Nix is going to be an NFL quarterback. Even if he proves me wrong, because there's no way you can ever completely predict accurately, because he might adjust to pressure. The kid was really bad and then went to Oregon, the best offensive line in college football, and got much better because he had plenty of time and was rarely ever under pressure. It's a very similar story to Zach Wilson. So even if he does adjust and he becomes a quarterback that can play under pressure, is it going to happen with the first 6 weeks of his career? Because we are built to just destroy rookie quarterbacks in particular, because we're not going to allow them to be comfortable. And if you look at what we did to C.J. Stroud last year, that's evident. We're not a fun or easy team for a rookie quarterback to play. Just like when we used to go up against, Zach Wilson's first year, we were like, oh no, that's horrible that he has to go against this team and that team in his first few games. Well, that's what they're saying. If they're smart and they know anything about our team, they're saying, damn, we got to go up against the Jets with a rookie quarterback. It's, if our defense plays anything up to what it was last year, if we stay at this level, and I think it's going to be even better with Hassan Reddick, I think that it's going to be very difficult for those rookie quarterbacks, and I expect us to have a really big advantage.
I love this comment from 𝐿_VR says, I rather Bo Derek over Bo Nix. That's a throwback more to your era, no? She was 80s.
It is, as you know, she was, yeah, Bo Derek was famous for being like the 10, you know, she was the 10. Probably made the Sports Illustrated bikini model edition what it is today.
There you go. I like Dylan's comment here. Even if you don't get all quarterbacks in a row, I hope we get Zachy Boy so we can blitz the shit out of him. Even if it like Zach and Sam Darnold back to back. I know that there's some fans who are really worried about, the revenge game for both those guys. I think this Jets defense could handle business against both those quarterbacks. With Zach, as Dylan is saying, blitz him and get pressure. He is going to make a mistake. Sam Darnold can't read a cover 2 to save his life. So just play back in your zone, and he's going to throw an easy interception to the safety one or two times in this game.
Yeah, I mean, even in the game against Carolina when our defense was number 32 and we were just learning a new system, what really went wrong with his one great, touchdown pass was we had a off the garbage heap safety in Redwine who fell down. So it was basically he was throwing it to Anderson uncovered. So other than that, he wasn't that impressive. So I'm not worried if it's Darnold. As far as Zach, we know how to beat Zach because we had him and we know what he doesn't like. And it's not just pressure. The way to stop him is to seal the edge because we know the only time he has any success is when he rolls. So if we seal the edge and we don't let him leave the pocket, we don't even have to get to him. He could have all day in the pocket. It doesn't matter. The guy can't get rid of the ball.
Great point. 𝐿_VR has another comment. This is his misconception, and I thought we could bat this one around. He says, misconception, the NFC West teams are going to be easy to beat. I agree. I think that, obviously San Francisco, as we said, is the toughest one, but the Rams were a playoff team last year. I don't look at that as some cakewalk game. The thing that I think is good for the Jets in both games at home against Seattle and the Rams is that they're 1:00 games. And for a West Coast team to travel to the East Coast and play at 1:00 versus 4, I think makes a big difference with the time zone. What's your take on the rest of the NFC West outside of San Fran?
Yeah, look, the Rams are going to be a tough game. One thing is they play the Niners a lot, so they have seen our defensive scheme. So it's not like a surprise to them or something they're not used to. They have an offensive coordinator. Obviously, I know 90% of the Jets fan base has no respect for in MLF, but the thing is he's there and he practiced against Salah's defense in practice, every day for 2 years, and plus in San Francisco. So they know our defense really, really well. Right? They know exactly how it works, which could be an advantage. It could make them tough. Plus, they're a team that has a Super Bowl coach. They're a real organization, and like you said, they made the playoffs last year. They have a lot of tough receivers that are really good in a short passing game, which has been our weakness. If you're gonna point to a weakness in us and how to get yardage against us, it's the short intermediate passes in the middle, and they have 2 receivers who are excellent at that. They're going to be a tough game. I'm not worried about Seattle. I respect every team, and every team you have to take seriously. It's the NFL. But Seattle, to me, is a completely different organization because there's no Pete Carroll. We have no idea what to expect. So the thing that used to scare me about Seattle truly is gone because it was basically any Pete Carroll coach team is a team to take very seriously. I don't know about this new coach. I don't know him. I don't know what he's going to do with that team and where they're going to be season 1 with him.
I agree with that take completely. Like they've been 9-8 each of the last 2 years. They've been solid, and I think they'll be relatively competitive. I don't think they're going to bottom out and be a horrible team, but I do worry for their perspective anyway what that coaching staff is going to do there. As you said, that's still very much so to me up in the air, and it's going to be something to keep an eye on. So I'm comfortable, and I would say even confident against Arizona and Seattle. I think I think a lot, I mean, not all, but I do think a lot of Jet fans are sleeping on that Rams game. I think it's going to be tougher than some think.
Yeah, and the other thing to say about those games is when we play Arizona, we'll have had 10 days rest because we're coming off a Thursday game. So we have the full extra days. So we come in very fresh against Arizona. And when we play Seattle, we're coming in off the bye week. So in both those situations, we're very fresh. Those are not the short weeks on our schedule. Plenty of time to prepare for them. So I think that we go into those games, at full strength or as close to full strength as we can be, based on the way our schedule is laid out.
There we go. Blitz Crew says, our defense has been told for years that they can't hit Zach or Darnold, even though the offense has been shit. I think it's going to be revenge for our D. Maybe not as much revenge, but I just think that they know the habit. Like this defense knows the habits of those guys.
Yeah, they know how they can hurt you. And you got to think, when does Zach succeed? He's streaky. He succeeds when he's too comfortable in the pocket or is able to get out of the pocket easily and make something happen. And he gets comfortable and he gets into streaks. I've never seen him have 4 good quarters in a row.
No.
Right? I've never seen it. He has like a couple of good quarters, even in his best games. He just doesn't have it because as soon as something goes wrong, he falls apart. So what do? Something goes wrong. The next time he takes a snap, blitz the hell out of him. Make something go wrong. Disrupt him a couple of times. He falls apart. We know this.
Yeah. We've seen it again way, way, way too many times.
And we got the secondary where we can do what other teams did to us when we had them. We have a good enough secondary that they don't need extra guys. Stack the box against this kid. Don't let them run against us. And stack the box, crowd the middle of the field, and rely on Reed and Sauce to cover their outside receivers. We should have no problem beating Zach if we, unless we just don't show up.
Yeah, I'm exactly there with you. Another good question here. What are your thoughts about having 2 Thursday night games this season and the recuperation time for health and player safety of the players? That was definitely something that, we talked about off air before we came on that we wanted to touch on today was the Thursday night games. I don't know your stance, so I won't speak for you, but I'll say how I feel and then you go after. I hate the Thursday night games. I think it's an absolute crime from the NFL to do that. You can't claim to be all for player safety and then make these guys play 3 days earlier than they're really supposed to. It's not fair. It really stinks. I hate the Thursday night games. And 2 in 1 year is a lot. There's been times where I believe it was the Buffalo Bills in 2022 had 3 Thursday night games in one season. Granted, the first one was the home opener, so that makes it a little bit easier, but still, I hate these games. How do you feel about them?
I despise them. The only thing I, be somewhat hopeful is that because we have such young key core players and because we have things like a defensive line where we have so much like the rotating thing that we could stay a little fresher. Sauce is so young still, he's going to be fine. And then, I think smash mouth football, if we're able to just our offensive line stays healthy, I think that's how you get through that when you only have 4 days rest because you just keep punching him in the face and letting Breece Hall just do his thing. And hope that because they're playing after only 4 days rest, that their defensive line has no desire at all to meet and have to tackle Breece Hall.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point because as you said, they don't want to tackle it or have to hit Breece Hall if you're getting pounded. Or, hell, what about Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis? Yeah. Those backs, right? In the second half of games, if you're closing out a game with a lead, you're just going to keep pounding the rock up the middle of the field, and it's going to wear and tear on these defenses.
Yeah, we'll try to turn it against them. You come back and we've only had 4 days, but so have they. We have 3 backs who can just punish them. We have the kind of offensive line that can punish. The one thing about Tippmann, AVT, even this guy Simpson, the thing he is good at, his biggest strength is run, just punch you in the face, nasty. And just bring the nasty. And we got 3 backs who can carry out that game plan. I expect the game plan to be punch them in the face. And the more you run the ball, the more you keep those, the more you keep them off the field.
Yep.
And you keep their, they might not have the premier Justin Jefferson type receiver, but they're balanced with lots of receivers. I'd rather keep them off the field and just eat up 38 to 40 minutes of the clock that game.
Yeah. Plus the Thursday night games, they are always so sloppy and such bad football usually. Like they almost always go to the under, like on from the lines in Vegas. There's not a ton of scoring in the games. Again, like I said, they're sloppy, they're mistakes, and it's because they're not ready. The guys aren't ready to play. If you want to say like, hey, on Thanksgiving is going to be our only day of the season where we do a Thursday game and the opener, right? The opener on a Thursday, and then you get a Thursday Thanksgiving game. Fine. I could live with that, settle with that. Absolutely. But I don't think it's fair to these guys that a team has to play on Thursday night every week.
Yeah, no, I'm against it. I would eliminate it. Make it a Saturday game. Make it, not even Friday. I mean, at earliest Saturday. Like, okay, there's some Monday night games. You only get 6 teams rest, and then there's a Saturday night game or something like that. Obviously, they'll never do it because of college football. But it's a money thing. It's money before safety. That's what 100% money before safety.
I love this name and I love this chat. Cramerica Industries with the super chat says, Jets face 0 teams off of a bye. I didn't know that one. I'm going to be honest. I did not know that one. Also, both Thursday night games are at home. Big advantage. Jets cook this schedule on the AR Jets Redemption Tour. So this team. Yeah, I was going to say this is a more positive Jets take on the schedule, because I feel like a lot of Jet fans, when I put it out, they were miserable. They didn't like the looks of this schedule.
I mean, from a very selfish perspective, man, I'm going to be really selfish when I say this. I do not prefer that the Talkin Jets group game. I know we wanted to get the opener, and now I'm hoping it's not the opener, because I don't want to do a Thursday night game. I don't want to fly across the country and do a Thursday night game again. And, I was hoping for a regular Sunday opening where we can meet early and, have hours in the parking lot. And last time it takes a lot of people have to work and on a weekday, and you don't have the full, all the participants there early. I don't like it.
So it's not breaking news because we don't have the official. It's not official yet, but I could say to everyone here that the Talkin Jets outing probably is not going to be the home opener now because of that reason. And for the same reasons that you said, we also wanted to go on the field after the game, which that's not available for the primetime games, which we didn't know last year when we booked. The Chargers game, we did that with the hope that we would get our whole group on the field after the game. Granted, we were able to go on before, and that was really cool. But in a perfect world, we want to do a day game. We don't have that one yet in mind. We will obviously let everyone know once we know. But yeah, I think a lot of people view it that way, and clearly the Talkin Jets group, myself included, do as well, because we said, we're not doing the opener anymore. There goes that idea.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of glad and relieved. I really, that was not. It doesn't work for people flying from other places to do a Thursday night game. So I'm glad. Personally, I'm looking forward to when we get that date set. We have a great time when we go, and I know it's early to be talking about it, but everybody that's listening, watching right now, I'm telling you, try to get ready, keep your ears open. And if you're torn whether you should go or not, I'm telling you, make the decision to go, because we have a great time.
It really was so much fun last year. The Tailgate Joe's tailgate they were so good to us. They took care of us. They brought over 2 big coolers of drinks, and they're bringing food. It was really so much fun in the lot. And then went in. Unfortunately, didn't see a very good game against the Chargers, but it's great to get everybody together. So we're really looking forward to doing that again this year.
And I look forward to staying with the group, because last year, a friend had tickets, so I didn't sit with the group. And you know what? I don't care about better tickets. I want to sit with the group. I want to hang out with everybody.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, I want to go back to a comment that I saw earlier. Let me see if I could find it. It was a little while ago here, but it's talking about the schedule and the way that they worded it. Not worded it, but how they are after the bye week. Can I find this comment? Come on, where was it here? Anyway, all right. Forgive me. I can't find the comment scrolling back, but the point was made that the Jets have a gauntlet. I believe it was Dylan who had the comment. Sorry, I can't find it in the chat now. But he was saying that there's a little bit of a gauntlet after the bye. But I saw a stat from Warren Sharp, who has the Jets from week 6, which their bye is week 12. So this includes some of their games before the bye. But from week 6 to week 18, it does get more difficult, but it's still towards the top of the league. It's 13th in schedule difficulty. Week 1 through 5 is the easiest in the NFL. And overall, it's the 4th easiest schedule in the league.
And we get to face those tough games at the end when things are normalized, right? We have the full week for the after the bye, we have Seattle, then we have a normal week again for Miami, and then we have a normal week for the Jaguars. And if you look, there's no travel. Like, the travel is just Miami and Buffalo and Jacksonville. So there's no long flights. There's no flying out west. Everything is East Coast, same time zone, full rest. There's a lot of advantages that we're going to get to go through a tough part of the schedule, when at least we're not bouncing around. And the reality is, if we want to consider ourselves a Super Bowl contender, which I want to, I'm not merely, we're just going to make the playoffs. I expect to contend with this roster. You can't look at schedules like this and be that nervous. I mean, the Rams aren't defending champions. They're a team that made the playoffs. Jacksonville didn't even make the playoffs. Seattle is not that threatening. And then Miami, I mean, they're in our division. If we're going to be a team that could win the division, then we have to be able to beat Miami. So I'm just not – I mean, it's tough, and every one of those teams is formidable, and every one of those games is going to be hard. But if we're truly a Super Bowl contender, if we're truly as good as we hope to be, we should be able to beat most of these teams and win most of those games. Right.
I'm not going to go as far to say gauntlet. I know Dylan pops in after and says it's a mistake to think it would be easy. I'm not going to say that it's easy after the bye. I think, because every one of those teams finished over 500.
Yes.
The Dolphins twice, you get twice. The Bills obviously did, Jags and Seahawks did, as well as the Rams. But you have 3 of those games at home. And again, if you're a good football team, it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter. But that kind of goes into another point that I had here, not a misconception, but just a stat that I wanted to talk about on why I am circling the last game of the year. And I think it matches up well for the Jets against Miami. So them being at home the final week of the year. Do you happen to know, or fair to venture a guess, on Tua Tagovailoa's overall record in games below 45 degrees? He has played 6 of them.
I'll guess, and I'll guess just because I know how bad Miami is at the end of a year when games matter and they're playing good teams. So I'm going to say 2-4.
0-6.
Wow.
Games under 40 degrees, 3 games, 0-3 in those games.
Wow.
That team is one of the kind of reminds me of, remember the early 2000s Bucks when they just like they were great in the regular season and then they would play like up in Philly in the cold in January and like were never able to beat them. Eventually they did and won a Super Bowl, but sometimes those like the dome teams or the warm weather teams when they have to go out and play in the elements are just not the same. And that's how I feel about the Miami team. I think they're good. They're probably going to win 9 or 10 games this year, but I don't think they're going to be the same. It's not like you were getting them at home week 1 as an opener, and it's going to be 75 and sunny in New Jersey. That's a hell of a lot different than getting them in January when it could be rainy and 37 degrees outside.
Yeah. And what's the strength of their team? The strength of their team is the boundary receivers, right? Like if Tua is not as effective, if the weather's not good, you want to bring it into a pound, ground and pounds both way type of game. Okay. I'll take that. I'll take it if you want an ugly game on the grounds. I'll take our running backs plus our defense. Not that their running backs are bad, but they're speed running backs. They're speed. And that's different when you talk about bad weather than power backs. In the cold, you want the guys that run through you. So I'll take that any day of the week. So nasty weather, I think, is to our advantage. And we have a quarterback who, had, over 15 years playing in Green Bay. So he's not, I know he's okay with it.
Right. That usually tends to bode well for teams that rely on defense and a ground game, which I know they have Aaron Rodgers and Garrett Wilson, and they're going to be good and I think really fun. But to me, the identity of this Jets team is still going to be their defense and the run game. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the strength of our team. What gives us a chance to win every week right off the Bucks before you even think about Aaron Rodgers, before you think about any of that, is the formula of great defense, great running game, like good running backs, power running backs. If you can establish that, you're already going to be a playoff contender just by having a great defense and pounding the ball. That's what Pittsburgh does. It's what Baltimore's done that. There have been teams that made a living, made their money on that forever. What we're doing is we're going to have that. We're building that punch you in the mouth running game with elite defense, but we also have Aaron Rodgers with guys like Garrett Wilson, Corley, a bunch of weapons, Breece Hall, receiving passes. We're just Mike Williams. I mean, we're putting weapons around that. And I think that's why I'm so confident. That's why I want a Super Bowl, not just the playoffs.
I like it. T.O.'s comment made me laugh. I hope Tua has Aflac. It's really funny because the Jets are going to be getting after him. That's great. Another super chat. Thank you so much, Brian, for your support. Really appreciate it. Good comment and question from him. Have Fashanu fill in for Tyron Smith for either or both of the Thursday Night Football games, so Tyron's doesn't take too much abuse and prevent injury. Your thoughts? I think that's going to play a factor this year, right? Because Tyron Smith is now at this point in his career, he's not someone who practices usually during the week. He plays on Sunday, does the walkthrough on Friday, and then plays again on Sunday. So is he going to be able to go on the short week? I would bet he might not. That's not a bad point here from Brian.
I already was thinking, if we do finally learn what it's like to just have easy games where we blow a team out, where we're very comfortably ahead, I'm already thinking maybe Fashanu should come in. I'm thinking if it's the middle of the third quarter and we're up, in a blowout, if we're up 27-3, maybe we should be sitting him and giving Fashanu experience and saving his knees and being, because you're talking about let's keep him as fresh as possible for that last 5 games of the year playoffs. Let's keep him as fresh as we can. We have the advantage of of extremely high rated offensive line, tackle who went 10 in the draft, who in almost any other situation would be a plug-in starter. And it certainly was projected to be able to be a plug-in starter. Why not use him and take away snaps from a guy you don't need in games that you're already comfortably ahead in?
Which goes back to something we've talked about from really ever since they drafted him number 1, but going back even further when we had these offensive line versus weapon debate, the rookie offensive lineman's going to play, guys. Like, this is what we were talking about. There are going to be weeks where it's just Tyron or Morgan Moses. He's playing with a torn pectoral, he had the surgery and is 33. There's going to be weeks, I bet, where he doesn't play. We're going to get some reps for Olu, I think, this year. Another super chat from 𝐿𝐴𝐵𝐴. Great job, guys. Question: does the hip tackle rules help or hurt us this season? Our offense versus our defense? Thanks. What are your thoughts? More beneficial or more of a detriment because of how this defense plays?
I don't really think it's. I think it affects every team equally. I really do. I don't think it's going to be style of defense that gets impacted more or less so much. I mean, I need convincing on that. I think anytime the rules change, it affects both teams. Both teams have to learn the new rules. Both teams have an equal chance that they're going to take penalties because they're used to the old way of doing things. Like, I'm not going to try to guess who has an advantage or a disadvantage in every matchup when there's new rules. I don't know I'm willing to listen, but if I don't know enough or understand, I guess at this point, our scheme enough to understand why it would be more of a disadvantage than other defensive schemes for other teams.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I'm going to say more of an advantage because I think it's going to help the Jets offensively and defensively. Their MO is getting to the quarterback, which that's not the hip drop tackle doesn't really come into play there. And having corners who can defend with like pass breakups and things like that. They were never really like a strong tackling defense anyway to begin with. So I don't look at it as going to be like as some major issue or some major thing that I'm worried about on that one. Mm-hmm. He does have a follow-up question though, and says, what are the percentage of players that are going to wear those Guardian caps? Do you know what he's talking about? The Guardian caps?
I don't know. I know that they have I hope he's not talking about those weird things that make them look like space Martians.
Yeah. I'm sure. This apparently the NFL is going to have them. Going to have it optional to wear. It does look strange. Apparently, I saw some players talking about it on Twitter. They're like, yeah, we don't really feel like it does anything. So I don't know the science behind it, if it helps or not. But some players feel like it doesn't make much of a difference. So I would expect it to be a very small number, if any.
But I will not judge negatively any player who does that. God forbid. I would never judge somebody else for wanting to be safe or safer when it's not my life on the line. I'm not the one that is risking it 45, 50 years old, starting to go senile, like all these horrible things that are happening to some of them. They can do whatever they want and they feel, protects them. It doesn't change the game in any way, in my opinion.
No, 100%. That's a great call out. It's kind of like the hockey players this year, they've started to wear the neck guards a little bit more because there was a really gruesome injury where someone's, unfortunately, their throat was cut and they died because of it. But like, this stuff happens. Like, it's a very violent game. Head injuries and concussions are still a really, really big issue in the NFL. I think we all can agree that the sport needs to do more for these guys, especially in their post-playing career. I would be surprised though if we see guys actually wearing these in game. I would think. Do we get one player?
I mean, someone mentioned Tua in the chat. Look, if there's any evidence at all that this helps prevent concussions, then I 100% think Tua should wear it.
Yeah, he should.
I want the guy to wear it. I mean, I don't want him getting concussions. I mean, he's a human being. I don't want his life being destroyed.
No. Right, of course. So, oh man, good question from Dylan here too. Are there Guardian caps for Achilles? I hope so.
I wish.
I wish there was a way to just completely prevent. Now, that reminded me, because very important for Elijah Vera Tucker, the Jets get Denver at home this year, so they're not going on the road to Denver for the third season in a row, where we've seen guys unfortunately get hurt the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Tua needs bubble wrap is also another comment from 𝐿𝐴𝐼𝐶𝐞𝐚𝐫𝐲.
Someone, Sean, is saying, oh, they get paid millions of dollars. Let me tell you something, Sean. It doesn't matter how much money you get paid. Okay? Health is more important than money. There's no amount of money that's worth having them lose their mind at 50 years old. These people want to grow up to be grandparents. They want to walk their brides down the aisle. We don't need players committing suicide because of these concussions. And that's what's happening right now. There are players killing themselves. So don't give me it's a physical game. They get paid millions of dollars. It doesn't hurt your watching experience if they wear helmets that are more protective.
Yeah.
Their job is not to be macho for your entertainment. These are not gladiators with swords killing each other.
What about this? We have a follow-up. If you're soft and can't play the game, then choose another.
Yeah, well, obviously you did because you're not out there playing. I mean, I love it when he's calling them soft. Yeah, call them soft. Go to their face and call them soft.
His picture.
You know what I mean?
His helmet.
It pisses me off, the ignorance of that somebody else should risk their health for your entertainment. It's like we're not animals anymore. You know, it's not an animal society. We're human beings.
Oh, God. That's so funny. Oh, God.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It really isn't. But your reaction.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just sickening. The people, some people out there are just like prehistoric.
It is a bit much. So in the final 10 minutes here or so of the show, I figure let's pull this back up and go through. We're going to play the old-fashioned game together. I know what my standings or record prediction is, but we're going to do this together as a show and decide. So let's go through game by game and do a win-loss prediction to close the show. So week 1 in San Francisco, are we marking that one up as a win or a loss?
Oh, man. Game by game, I'm going to always predict they win, but they're not going 17-0, right? So right. Because of that, because I have them at 12-5, I'll say that's going to be one of the 5.
Okay. We're on the same, just for, excuse me. You said 12-5 in my prediction yesterday. I said 11-6. So we're essentially in that same range, but I think it's still fun to go through in each game by game. Jordan said a loss as well. I think that's going to be common. Can they win it? Of course. Like, Jeremy, are you going to be surprised if they go out in week 1 and pull off an upset? I wouldn't.
No, not at all. I think we're going to be in the game. I think it's going to be a great game. And obviously I think we're beyond the point now, especially healthy, with Rodgers healthy, offensive line healthy. You're not going to ever see me doubting our ability to win a game ever. I'm going to go into every game believing fully that we're capable of winning.
Okay, how about week 2? We'll say bounce back in week 2 against Tennessee here if they start 0-1.
Yeah, I'm. I don't want to underestimate anyone, but if you had to pick the games you were the most confident of, this is probably top 5 for me.
Yeah, I think that's
Tennessee.
That's a really, really, really. That's a really one that you got to win. Will Levis, I think, is going to struggle against the Jets defense. I have a lot of questions about him as a quarterback still. What's your, I know not Jets related, but do you have a strong opinion one way or the other on Will Levis?
I
just feel like there's a lot of unknown. I don't really know.
I think it's unknown, and I just don't, even if he's going to be good or decent or whatever, he's just not what he's going to be yet.
Yeah. So I say win as well. And relatively, I'm not going to say blowout, but it's not going to be a tight game. I think the Jets handle business there. What about at home? The home opener against the New England Patriots, week 3. Are they beating the Patriots in week 3 in the home opener here?
Oh yeah. Even they have the short rest also. Who's their quarterback? Brissett?
I like Jordan's here. He says better be a win. That's the best answer.
Yeah. We have to think we're going to win that game. And we're going to be outraged if we don't. This is the time of this is our time. This is the time where the Patriots get to suck and we get to be great. And they kicked our butt when we sucked and they were great. Now it's our turn to kick their butt and they suck. And if we can't even get the wins against them in times like this, where they have the roster they have and we have the roster we have, that's going to be very, very upsetting. I'm not ready for that. We're going to beat them, and we're going to beat them handedly.
There we go. I like that. All right. So 2-1 through 3 games. I think we could agree there.
Yeah.
Week 4 against the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix or Zach Wilson or Jared Stidham. Are they coming in and lighting it up in our building, or are the Jets going to 3-1?
I think we're going to beat them. I think that's going to be a tough game.
Okay.
That's not going to be I think at halftime when you come in and we're talking with Ryan and Green Bean, I think we're going to be, it's not going to be one of these, we're sitting back, relaxed in the driver's seat kind of game. I think it's going to be a tougher game than we think, but I think in the end, they're just not going to be able to score enough points against us.
Okay. So maybe like a 10-6 game at the half. And we're like, ooh, this is a little,
I think it'll be like that. And then I think we'll pull away because whoever their quarterback's going to be is going to start to fall apart. I think they'll hold it together for a half because they have a really good coach who's really good with quarterbacks. He makes them look a lot better than they are. But I think in the end, at the end of the day, they're going to kind of fall apart.
So you get Jordan who says that he agrees because Peyton's a good coach, and then ton of rest before that game might throw them off going from the Thursday to the Sunday game. But all right, we'll go 3-1. How about London against Minnesota? What's your feel?
I like us. And here's why. 2 years ago, we came within Berrios not dropping the ball where it was thrown into his chest in the end zone to beating them, right? So what have they gotten better or worse, and have we gotten better or worse? They, at that time, still had a good running back in Cook. They're trying to rediscover their running game. They just lost Kirk Cousins. Yes, they got a young, exciting, quarterback, but is he, at that point of the season, better than Kirk Cousins was 2 years ago? Like, I think this is an easier Minnesota Vikings than we played 2 years ago. We had freaking Zach Wilson as our quarterback, and now we have Aaron Rodgers. So, of course, I have us beating the Vikings this time around. We've gotten better, clearly. I don't know that they have.
Okay. I am good chalking this one up as a win. I just want you to know, in my predictions, I predicted this one as a loss because I fear it being a trap game with looking ahead to the Bills in prime time that next week. And with the travel, I think sometimes those London games could get a little funky. So are the Jets better than Minnesota? 1,000%. They should win this game. I'd be disappointed if they don't, but we got to find losses on this schedule somewhere. So I had this one on my own personal one as a loss, but I'm good with keeping it rolling and going to 4-1, rattling off 4 wins in a row. Do they make it 5 against Buffalo?
Wow. So I have a splitting with Buffalo. So I have Buffalo getting one of our 5 losses. I'm going to say, though, we do win the one at home.
Okay, I'm good with that. I had it the same way. I have a split with Buffalo. So let's make it 5 in a row. The Jets sitting at 5-1 through 6 weeks, rolling into Pittsburgh. I think Jet fans are way underrating this game. I think this is going to be a tougher game than some people anticipate. What do you think?
I have it as a loss.
Me too. Okay, so good. And again, I want this team to win every game. I hope they do better than whatever, final record prediction that we give them. But I think Pittsburgh on the road, Sunday Night Football, is a sneaky tough game. So I'm also okay with giving them a loss here.
If we play them again in the playoffs, we'll beat them. But I just think, like we're saying, the situation and just like, the psychological, we're 5-1, we're feeling good, and they're going to give us a fight we're not going to be ready for because we're going to be feeling a little too much. This is a young team, and I think this is going to be one of those lesson games that'll make them better in the long run.
Okay, so I'm with you. So 5-2 at this point, now on the road in New England. Are we sweeping New England this year?
Yeah, we're sweeping them. We're sweeping them.
Okay, good. 6-2, don't have to spend much time on that one. Another tough game. Thursday Night Football against Houston at home. I had this one as a loss, Jeremy.
So do I. That's our home loss.
Okay, there we go. So I think it's really tough in a short week. So that would put them to 6-3 through 9 games, going on the road to Arizona after that. Are you comfortable with them in Arizona on the road, or you think that game's going to be Ryan thinks it's going to be a little bit tougher, that game?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. We're going to win that game.
See, Dylan's comment is so true. Playing Pittsburgh in the playoffs gives me PTSD. It does.
Yeah,
2004, that broke a young Matt O'Leary's heart. I was not prepared for that.
That was the only time in my life I was laid face down on the floor of a bar and I wasn't drunk. Like, it wasn't because I passed out.
Yeah.
It was because it didn't matter that my face was pushed against the floor of a bar, because I was that devastated. That was the least of my problems.
That was miserable for my. That's the first playoff heartbreak I remember. I don't remember 2002 really. I was too young, but 2004 I do. And damn Doug Bryan, son of a bitch, rat bastard.
Oh.
How about right before the bye, Sunday Night Football against the Colts? Win or loss?
It's a win.
Okay.
Teams with questionable quarterbacks that aren't proven, that are this or that are still learning. We got Aaron Rodgers. We got a great defense. We're going to go through teams like that. And the Colts, to me, still have some broken pieces. I think we're going to run the ball all over them.
8-3 at the bye. I would sign up for 8-3 at the bye. I'd be very, very happy with that going into their bye week.
Yeah. I need it. That's how my 12-5, has to work. Has to be.
It's gotta work that way. All right, coming out of the bye against the against the Seattle Seahawks. Win, loss.
I love that one for us. No Pete Carroll. Give me that all day long.
Team flying from the West Coast to the East Coast to play at 1:00. I think that helps also. So. That's a win. So 9-3 going into this game on the road against Miami. What's your take on that one?
We lose that one.
Yeah, I think let's do fair to say split with Miami and take the home game.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so that drops you to 9-4 in that one. December 15th against Jacksonville. How do you feel about the Jags?
I think we're going to beat them. Trevor Lawrence is not mobile enough. He's probably less mobile now that he hurt himself. Like in other words, it's not college. I think he learned a lesson last year that he doesn't want to be running around the field. He's not going to have a long career if he does that. And I think last year they probably learned that, and they're probably telling him that. You're going to see more of a pocket guy that's going to be run when you have to, because you can, maybe to say, and maybe he'll have the mobility for that, but it's no longer going to be a part of his game. I think they try to make it when he was younger in the beginning. So I think that's just a great matchup for us. I think they bought a lot of free agents a couple of years ago, and they gave themselves this small little window, but I think they got problems now. They just don't have the cohesiveness. In their team. They're just changing names too often in too many spots each year.
I agree. I'm with you. How about in week 16 against the Rams? I think this is a tougher game than some give them credit for, but I think the Jets win a tight one at home.
Yeah, we beat them with freaking Gase, at home, and it goes to, part of it is going across the country, like you said. They're the ones that finally, it feels like every year it's us with the huge disadvantage. And one good thing we don't talk about with the schedule is I don't count the first game as going west as big a disadvantage, because you could do it with more time. Right? It's the first game of the year. You could go there a couple of days earlier if you want. It's not the same thing. But like when you're playing week after week and then suddenly you have to fly to the West Coast, that sucks. So I actually think that it's going to be our advantage, and that's going to give us a little advantage over them. And we're at home. We're going to take that. We're going to take that win. We're going to be going to close the division out. We're going to be hungry. We're going to be excited, and we're going to win that game.
I like it. On the road in Buffalo, excuse me, I think that we're chalking this one up as a loss. Split with the Bills on the road in Buffalo late in the year. That's a tough place to play.
And that's where we already called that split, so I'm going to obviously stick to it. That's where we lose our fifth game.
Okay, so going into last week, 11-5, 11-5, and then winning to go 12-5 against the Miami Dolphins. Is the 12-5 enough to win the division?
It's going to be a cold, miserable day, and Tua is going to have to, and the rest of their fans and the rest of their team is going to have to watch the Jets, if they haven't already, clinch the division.
Oh, I love it. That's a great way to end it. But I think there's a better way to end it, actually. With this comment, the biggest misconception that a team without a winning culture or history like the Jets is considered a shoo-in for the playoffs and division titles, all because they have a great team on paper. My response:
put him in the fucking bedroom. Get him out of here.
We're going to put him in a timeout.
It's the opposite. It's so stupid to go by the name of an organization and team and not look at the players, the real team that's out there. And it's not just on paper. We saw this team when they have good offensive line play before we got beat up the last 2 years. When our offensive line wasn't completely decimated, we were winners. You know what I mean? And that was without good quarterback play. Now we're getting better quarterback play, and we're hopeful, obviously. We all say everything we're predicting is based on health. But if we have an offensive line as opposed to the last 2 years when we didn't, you have to assume that we're going to be winning like we were in the beginning of the last 2 years.
Yep.
Like, this team wins when we're able to block. Like, to me, the only thing we had to do is address the offensive line and, of course, get Aaron Rodgers instead of, the worst quarterback in the NFL, or combination of quarterbacks that lead to being the worst in the NFL.
That's what I was going to say. They won 7 games with Zach Wilson, Tim Boyle, and Trevor Siemian. Like, Jet fans are allowed to be excited. If you're going out there, if you want to get at the fans who are going to say the Jets are going 15-2 and going to have a cakewalk to the Super Bowl, okay. But if you're getting at us because we're excited about winning 11 or 12 games, maybe winning a division title for the first time,
and competing for a Super Bowl.
Yeah, right. That's different. I think that's a completely different. If your mindset is there's a really good roster, I think it's a playoff team, and I think they have a good chance to be one of the teams competing for a Super Bowl, that to me is a healthy level of optimism. I think if you're just going to say the Jets it's going to crash and burn because the Jets always crash and burn, that's lazy.
I only have one question for anyone that's sitting there saying, and you call yourself a Jets fan, and you're saying, oh, we're not going to win, or why would you think we win? Why are you excited? And trying to stop everybody from being excited and trying to steal everybody's joy and excitement. To not just feel it. If you feel it, fine. You can't control your feelings. If you've been burned, they've traumatized you, fine. But to go out of your way to steal the excitement and try to take it away from other Jet fans, I only have one question for you. Who hurt you?
Show me where it hurts. Oh, goodness gracious. All right. I think that's a good way to end this episode, Jeremy. It was fun breaking down the schedule with you as always. And I'm excited to do this. Like, we've started now for a couple months of doing this show together. I love the expansion of Talkin' Jets, but it's going to be so much fun during the regular season with everything going on.
I agree. This is great. I'm with the roster the way it is going into this year, getting to do a show with you every week, getting to do the game reactions with Green Bean, the things I do with, the shows I participate with �'𝐿𝐿𝐿, who, is a super close friend of mine. I am just more excited maybe than I've ever been for this season, both. And, just not just for the team winning, but for just the experience and what we're going to be doing throughout the season.
Awesome. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Before we go, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. I'm Matt, he's Jeremy, and we'll catch you next time.